What's going on, guys? HyperX here, and today I want to talk about a game called Valheim in a new series that we're calling Games Heating Up. In this series, the idea is that we'll take a look at games that are sort of garnering popularity right now, games that people are sort of playing and getting excited about, and trying to explore what that game is, what makes people enjoy it, and just in general try and sort of give you some context as to what the game has to offer in the event that you yourself want to check it out. And Valheim is the game we're going to use to kick off that series. If you guys know me, you know that I love my Viking stuff, my Norse mythology stuff, and some of you guys have actually messaged me asking if I'm going to check this game out, so this video is exactly that. Today we're going to talk about Valheim, talk about where it came from, what it is, and just try and give you some context. So if you guys do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated. Let us know in the comments down below if you guys are playing this already, or maybe you've watched some videos or some streams. Is this the sort of thing that you yourself would like to check out? Definitely let us know. But to begin with, let's go back to the developers. It's developed by Iron Gate AB. This is actually their very first game, which is incredibly exciting. Originally, it was just Richard Svensson who was working on the title, but early in 2019, Henrik Tornqvist joined the team and the studio moved into their own office space, a small office room each, previously working from home. They then registered as a new limited company and they got publishers. Not long after that, they got Robin Erie, I believe that's how you pronounce it, I apologise if I get the name wrong, as their first employee. He's a concept artist, 3D artist and an animator, and the guys then moved into a bigger office space, including some new room to grow, and that's pretty much all the information we could find on the studio. So, you know, small beginnings, but definitely a lot of people are seemingly picking up this game. In fact, that tends to be kind of a story for a lot of these sort of titles, small teams that finally sort of get that popularity, and then suddenly everyone's like, yo, we need to check this out. It's definitely a kind of a cool sort of origin story, so to speak. But let's talk about the game. So the synopsis for this is that it's a brutal exploration and survival game designed for 1 to 10 players, set in a procedurally generated purgatory inspired by Viking culture. You battle, you build, and you conquer your way to a saga worthy of Odin's patronage. Now, this originally released a couple of weeks ago on the 2nd of February for early access on Steam, hence the recent attention, as anybody can now play this. Being early access, and with it being a survival game, it is of course naturally understandable to be a little bit cautious going into it and, you know, whether or not the game will actually be good or not, or just if it's being overhyped. A lot of games in this genre and sort of early access windows have let people down, so let's jump in and explore what people are doing. So the genre, again, indie, survival, RPG, action-adventure. It is mostly PvE, however PvP can be enabled to duel your friends. Keep in mind this is a slightly different sort of survival experience. It's more so something you do cooperatively as opposed to, say, something more akin to that of Rust. Graphics-wise, it has a sort of stylized look to it, with relatively low detail and fidelity, especially on the character models. Lighting is pretty good, and there are weather events, day, night cycle, that do make the game look quite nice despite the sort of lower graphical fidelity. It kind of reminds us of sort of a 3D Terraria in that respect, which is actually kind of cool. When it comes to co-op, you can play with up to 10 players, but it can also be played solo. They do recommend 2 to 5 players though. It's definitely more fun co-op with friends. I mean, obviously, these kind of games, generally speaking, are when you can share the world with your friends, and there's lots of base building and resource gathering and crafting, which of course is a lot easier with more people. Now, being a survival game, it is procedurally generated. You will be chopping trees, mining rocks, building and crafting. A lot of the items and buildings in the game, especially as you get further into the game, require a lot of resources, meaning you can expect a lot of grinding, a lot of killing to get you the items you need. But again, that's what keeps us playing these kind of games, so that's fair to say. I mean, if you could build your buildings and the best buildings in the game with just 2 trees, it wouldn't be very exciting. However, every item is basically permanent and can be repaired for free, so unless you die and lose it, it is yours to keep once you've made it. Now, of course, outside in the world, there are a lot of things to fight and sort of, potentially present dangers to you. So when it comes to keeping alive, this means managing your food and your temperature. But luckily, unlike other survival games like DayZ or Rust, you won't die if you ignore these. You will lose maximum health and stamina if you are hungry or cold, meaning the weaker monsters can end up being much more deadly. But it is fairly easy to keep on top of once you get the gist of the game and know to keep an eye out for things like mushrooms and berries, while later in the game you'll be killing for meat and cooking and keeping warm near fires. Now, there's a fair amount of attention to detail in the base making. It's actually a fairly solid and in-depth building system. You build in tiles and can snap them together fairly easily. You need to build support beams inside for larger buildings, leave holes for smoke to escape above fires or you will suffocate, and building better houses gives you a higher comfort level, as well as giving you a rested buff which grants faster health and stamina regen. A higher comfort level gives you a longer lasting buff after you leave the house. Now, of course, when you're out and about, there's of course combat. Combat revolves around attacking, blocking, dodging or parrying, blocking at the last second, with a range of weapons that have different stats and advantages and disadvantages. There are ranged weapons such as bows, and timings and getting used to sort of enemy attack animations is important when it comes to survival. As for the enemies themselves, they go from sort of small monsters and creatures like sort of, necks, boars, deers, that sort of thing, to giant Norse monsters that you must defeat to progress the game and build higher tier items and buildings. The bosses are kind of like monsters in Monster Hunter. They are huge, with a fair bit of health and often hit hard. However, if you learn their attack animations, combined with sort of being well prepared in items and gear, you should generally speaking be okay. However, in the event that you die, you will lose some of your skills and sort of levels and progress, and all of your gear will drop where you died. On the settings front, overall, there's an okay amount of options and sliders, enough to sort of customize the experience to your taste. For example, you can turn off bloom, depth of field, motion blur, that kind of thing, so there's a fair amount of customization. When it comes to exploring the world, there are also random events. What makes the game interesting and keeps you on your toes is that while you're playing around, there is a chance for something to just simply happen. For example, sometimes you'll be minding your own business and you'll get a message on screen with something like "the ground is shaking," followed up by huge trolls or giants attacking you or your base. Outside of just generally speaking living, surviving and gathering, the aim of the game is to defeat the 5 bosses called the Forsaken. These only appear if you summon them in specific parts of your procedurally generated world. Each requires different resources to summon and battle, and defeating a boss will provide you with loot that progresses you further into the game. This then allows you to get new resources and a higher tech tree for items and gear. So that, generally speaking, is your aim, and that, in a nutshell, is sort of what Valheim has to offer. It's how it plays, and overall, it's how it's looking right now. It's definitely promising from the early access side of things. It's definitely sort of there's a lot of things to sink your teeth into, and of course, being more so cooperatively driven than it is, say, competitive, then for those of you that enjoy potentially a sort of slightly slower paced survival experience where you can sort of focus more so on the building, the growing, and the kind of survival aspect, as opposed to having to eternally sit and watch your back for other players that might just ransack your base, then it is quite an awesome experience. Of course, on top of that, pairing it with the fact that it has the Viking themes and of course the sort of Norse culture around it, then if you do like that kind of stuff, then setting wise it may well appeal. But for the time being, that is a quick rundown on why Valheim is heating up and why people are playing it right now. Again, let us know in the comments down below if you guys have been jumping in yourself, if you guys have played this, if you guys have enjoyed it, maybe you defeated some of the bosses, how did that go for you? But otherwise, for the time being, that's it. Let us know if you guys want to see more from this, and I'll catch you in the next one. If you want to catch more from us at HyperX Gaming, don't forget you can catch the guys 269, Paradise Central and Investmore streaming over on Twitch weekdays, playing a variety of games. If you guys want to jump in, tune in, watch and even join in, then make sure you check them out. The links to those are in the description box down below, and of course you can join the Discord to get involved in all of the discussions.